Welcome to Kindness Stories. Here, we share true and inspiring tales that remind you of the strength of the human spirit, the power of compassion, and the fact that every act of courage can change a life. If you enjoy stories that lift your heart and make you believe in goodness, make sure you subscribe and join our family. Now, settle in and let's begin today's story. The day Lena first walked into Hillcrest High, she already knew it would be the hardest day of her life. She clutched the straps of her worn-out backpack as she stepped through the towering double doors. Her heart racing, everything felt too bright, too loud, and too unfamiliar. This was not the home she'd known for the past 16 years. Her father's sudden transfer to another city meant a new school, new faces, and, worst of all, leaving behind the tiny circle of people who truly seen her. Lena had always been quiet, not because she had nothing to say, but because she'd learned early that sometimes silence kept her safer than words ever could. She'd grown up helping her mother mend clothes in the back of their small laundry shop. They didn't have much, but her mom's gentle smile always made it feel like they had enough. Her father worked double shifts just to keep their small apartment warm in winter. So Lena knew that fancy clothes, expensive gadgets, and fitting, and with the popular crowd, were luxuries she could not afford. She glanced down at her dress, the same one she had worn last year for her cousin's birthday. Her mother had carefully stitched tiny lilac flowers along the hem to make it feel new again. Lena ran her fingers over those stitches, reminding herself that her mother's love was woven into every thread. As she moved down the hallway, she felt the stares. They were subtle at first, a raised eyebrow here, a whispered comment there, but she felt them all the same. In the center of it all stood three girls by the lockers, their laughter echoing off the cold walls. The tallest one, Brielle, tossed her shiny hair back as she eyed Lena up and down, an amused smirk playing on her lips. "Hey, new girl," Brielle called out, her voice sugary sweet, but with an unmistakable edge. Lena paused. She considered just walking away, pretending she hadn't heard, but she knew they'd just chase her down anyway, so she turned, hugging her books closer to her chest. "Yes," Lena said softly. Brielle's friends, Tasha and Monica, snickered as they closed in. "Where'd you get that dress?" "The thrift store's reject bin," Tasha jeered, reaching out to flick the hem with her perfectly manicured nails. "It's from my mom. She made it better," Lena whispered, her cheeks burning. "Oh, she made it better? Cute." "It's still trash," Monica sneered. Brielle stepped even closer, so close Lena could see the tiny rhinestones on her necklace spelling out her name. "Let's give her a real Hillcrest welcome," Brielle said with a grin that made Lena's stomach drop. Before Lena could react, she felt sharp hands tug at her dress. The seams strained under the force as they yanked the fabric. She stumbled back, her books falling to the ground. She heard the sickening rip before she felt the cold air on her skin. Tears welled up in her eyes as laughter erupted all around her. The hall seemed to spin. She grasped the torn edges of her dress, trying to hold them together, but the damage was done. She could feel the weight of 100 eyes on her, mocking, judging, some pitying, but none helping. "Oops, guess it was cheaper than we thought," Brielle cackled. For a moment, Lena stood frozen. She wanted to disappear, to run back to the safety of her mother's arms, but deep inside, a tiny flame flickered. She remembered her mother's words every time life knocked her down. "You are stronger than you think, my love, and kindness is your greatest power." Taking a shaky breath, Lena picked up her books, holding the torn fabric tight with one hand. She did not look at Brielle. She did not give them the satisfaction of seeing her cry. Instead, she walked down the hallway, each step steady, each tear that threatened to fall swallowed by her resolve. She hid in the girls' bathroom, staring at her reflection. The tear ran diagonally across the bodice. Her skin showed through. She blinked back tears, searching her backpack for something, anything, to fix it. She found an old safety pin and clipped it shut as best she could. It looked awful, but it was all she had. When she walked into her next class, whispers followed her like shadows. But there was one face that didn't mock her. It belonged to a boy named Ethan. He sat near the window, sketching something in his notebook. Lena caught him glancing at her, his brow furrowed, a flicker of concern in his eyes. When the final bell rang, Lena bolted for the exit, hoping to escape before Brielle could find her again. But as she stepped outside, she heard footsteps behind her. "Hey, wait up," Ethan called. Lena stopped, her heart pounding. She turned to see him jog up, his backpack bouncing against his shoulder. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice gentle. Lena hesitated. Part of her wanted to say, "I'm fine," and keep walking. But something in Ethan's eyes made her pause. They weren't the eyes of someone who pitied her. They were the eyes of someone who cared. "They tore my dress," she said, her voice cracking. "I know. I'm sorry. They're awful. They've done it to others too, but no one ever fights back because, well, they're rich, popular, whatever. I don't want to fight them with fists," Lena said quietly. Ethan smiled. "Good, then don't. But maybe there's another way." They sat on a bench under the old oak tree near the school gates. Ethan told her about how Brill's gang had made his sister's life miserable the year before, spreading rumors and forcing her to switch schools. He pulled out his sketchbook and flipped it open. There, Lena saw drawings of students. Some she recognized, others she didn't, all with captions about what they'd been through. It was like a secret diary of the hurt that went unseen. "They think they're untouchable," Ethan said. "But what if they weren't? What if people knew the truth about what they do?" Lena looked at the sketches, an idea forming. She thought about her mother's gentle strength, how she never raised her voice, but always made things right. She knew she couldn't physically fight Brill, but maybe, just maybe, she could fight back another way. That night, Lena sat at her tiny desk. Scraps of fabric spread around her. She carefully sewed the tears shut, adding more of her mother's lilac flower embroidery to cover the damage. With each stitch, she felt her resolve grow. She stayed up until dawn, her fingers raw, but her spirit unbroken. The next day, Lena walked into school wearing the same dress, but now it looked different. The ripped part was covered in beautiful embroidered flowers. She held her head high. As she moved through the halls, people stared, but this time, there was no laughter. There was curiosity, maybe even respect. In the cafeteria, she stood on a chair and tapped her spoon against her lunch tray. Conversations hushed as all eyes turned to her. Brill rolled her eyes, lounging at her usual table. "Hey, new girl, you lose your mind or something?" Brill called. "No, I found my voice," Lena replied, surprising herself with the strength in her tone. "I know what you did yesterday. Everyone knows. And you know what? I'm not afraid of you. You can tear my clothes, but you can't tear me down." A few students snickered, but some clapped softly. Brill scoffed, but Lena ignored her. She held up a handmade flyer, a simple piece of paper with a drawing by Ethan and words that read, "Stand together. Kindness is stronger than cruelty. We're starting a club," Lena announced. "For anyone who's tired of being bullied, we're going to help each other, share our stories, and stand up for each other. If you want in, meet me under the oak tree after school." She stepped down from the chair. Silence lingered. Then a few students stood up and came to her side. Ethan joined her, holding up more flyers. Brill looked rattled for the first time. After school, Lena sat under the oak tree again. At first, it was just her and Ethan. Then, one by one, students trickled in. Some brought stories of their own, of whispered rumors, cruel pranks, or silent suffering. Lena listened to each one, her heart breaking but her spirit soaring, because they weren't alone anymore. They called themselves the Kindness Circle. They met every week, shared their struggles, helped each other study, and even started small kindness projects, like leaving encouraging notes in lockers or fixing up the old benches in the courtyard. Brill tried to sabotage them, of course. She spread rumors that the club was for losers, that they were just whiny babies who couldn't handle a joke, but it didn't work. The more she mocked them, the stronger they grew, because now, when Brill targeted one of them, the rest stood up for that person. A month later, Lena stood by her locker when Brill stormed up to her, rage burning in her eyes. "You think you're so clever, turning everyone against me," Brill hissed. "I didn't turn anyone against you. You did that yourself," Lena replied calmly. "Maybe you should think about why you need to hurt people to feel strong."